Okay. All right. Can you hear me now? Today is June the 6th, 2019, which is now the 75th anniversary of D-Day. And of course, we are thankful for those that gave their lives there and that were so brave in going on those boats. And I think I saw today that 90% of the ones on that first wave were killed. And so we are so thankful.
Machine gunners were waiting for them.
Yeah, but we are so thankful that thank God we won the war and that we can celebrate like this and that we have the freedom that we do.
And we don't have to speak German.
Yes, we don't have to speak German. So, but I have Grandma Duval here, and of course she lived some during that period of time. She was definitely part of what I would consider the greatest generation. And I actually was watching today on TV how President Trump, he was giving a speech, and when he was talking and he was thanking the greatest generation and those men that were there. I saw a guy, one of the soldiers that had been there, and he was crying, and I started to tear up just seeing that, and Trump was just really thanking them for their service, and it's just amazing that was 75 years ago now. So, but enough about D-Day. I had some questions here for Grandma.
Well, just to bring you up to date, when that happened, I was between my freshman and sophomore year of high school.
Freshman and sophomore, okay.
I
Wow.
figured it out today because I couldn't figure out where I would be in school or whatever.
Okay, so what high school were you going to?
Harrisville High School.
Harrisville High School, and that is in Harrisville?
Harrisville, not quite 100 people in all 4 grades.
So I'm guessing Harrisville was a pretty small town?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Okay, I know I have the list right here. All right, here's a good one. What was life like growing up on the farm? Like, what time did you guys have to wake up in the morning, and what were your tasks? I'm actually going to close this door here because this toilet keeps running.
Boy, what time did we get up? I don't remember.
When the rooster crowed?
I know we all got up early,
Yeah.
and we all had breakfast together. We all had lunch together, and we had dinner, and then we had supper. We didn't call them lunch and dinner. It was breakfast, dinner, and supper.
Okay, so you didn't even have lunch growing up then.
That's right. I missed out. No, but Dad was always there for all the meals.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother would figure out where he was, on the farm. He could be most anywhere, and she'd go out and say, "Yoo-hoo," and he'd answer, "Yip, yip." And then he'd come in. He knew it was time to come in to eat, or that she wanted him in if some emergency came up or something. Yeah.
So you had how many sisters growing up?
3.
3 sisters, and they were. What was the age? What was the oldest to youngest?
Okay, Bernice is 11 years older than I, and Eleanor is 8 years older, and Helen is 6 years older. I think I was an afterthought.
Oh no! Well, you were a good afterthought then. So Bernice, you said, was the oldest.
Yes.
So she's 11 years older. So that means this year she would have been 101.
Yes.
Wow. And she passed away when?
In 83, I believe.
83. Wow. 83.
Yeah, 83.
So that was, what, 36
No,
years
wait
ago?
a minute. 93.
93.
I'm sorry.
26 years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, because Dad passed away in 85, so that doesn't, it was way after Dad, so, yeah.
So which of the sisters were you closest with growing up? The one next in line to you, or?
Probably, and yet I was close to Bernice until she got married.
Mm-hmm.
we shared a room upstairs. We had 4 bedrooms upstairs. My sister Helen and Eleanor always shared a room. You know, all the time from the time they were young, growing up.
Oh, and you and Berna shared a room?
She shared my room. We shared the bed until she got married.
Wow.
And then, since we had 4 bedrooms and Eleanor and Helen only used 1, I would go from one to the other, and back and forth, you know, depending on how I felt.
Just whatever mood you were in, you'd
Yeah.
sleep in whatever room you were in the mood to sleep in. So, okay. Well, I know your family was around during the Great Depression. So, and of course, I know on the farm you guys weren't as affected by that. But did you feel any kind of effects, or did you ever go into town or a larger city and see any of the effects of the Great Depression?
Well, we heard from our relatives especially, but we were rationed with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't get sugar and flour. Now, we had our own butter, our own meat, our own bread, our own milk. And being a farmer, my dad had all the gasoline that he needed and all the tires, rubber tires. Rubber tires were at a, you know, they were really,
At a premium at
yeah,
that time?
thank you. Couldn't think of that.
But the reason why he was able to have as much gas as he needed was because he was a farmer, right?
Yeah,
So,
they were dependent on the farmer to get food for the soldiers.
yeah.
I mean, that was important back then because there were a lot of people in the service.
So some of the food then that you guys were growing there was actually going to soldiers that were fighting.
Apparently,
Wow.
we had eggs a certain time of the year. Then we'd have fryers another time of the year. So, yes, and eggs, lots of eggs.
Now, do you remember if once World War II started, do you remember if there was a special war tax that you had to pay at that time? Obviously, I know you were not.
I don't remember any tax.
Right, okay.
They were great on selling war bonds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they'd have rallies, you know, getting war bonds. And even now you can get a United States bond.
Yeah.
There goes my phone.
That's an email.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Now,
So-
did you ask what Grandma did on the farm?
uh-huh.
Oh, you
Well,
did?
like what were your
All right.
specific tasks?
My job with the chickens was to water them. And, you know, chickens are not the non-smelliest animal. And I would go in with a bucket of water and fill up their watering thing. And then one summer I went away for a week at a cousin's. And I came back, how can I stand this? You know, my eyes watered.
Oh,
I
no.
thought,
Wow.
once you get used to it, you don't even think about it. But yeah, that was to water the chickens. Part of the time after the older sisters left, I had to milk the cow
Oh,
in the
wow.
morning and evening before I went to school and when I got home. Let's see, what else?
Did you guys ever name the cows
Oh,
at all?
yes, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the names?
Well, we only had 1 or 2 at the time. No, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I just remember the black one that liked to kick
Ooh.
when you milking her.
Oh, no. Did you actually ever get hit when she would kick you?
Yeah, many times you turn over the bucket of milk that you already
Oh,
had.
no.
So, yeah. I mean, first you had to get her out in the pasture and bring her in. But, trying to think. Oh, I helped drive the tractor. I would harrow a field. That's after it was plowed. Dad never allowed me to plow. He didn't trust me, I guess. But he would do the plowing and then I would do the harrowing, which would make those rough furrows be nice and smooth.
Okay.
So,
So do you know what you mostly what mostly was planted on your farm? What it was mostly growing there?
Yes, wheat, oats, and corn.
Wheat, oats, and corn.
And I would ride the planter for the corn. Dad would drive the tractor. And there was a arm out from the planter for the next row, digging up a little ditch so you'd know where to go, where he would know where to drive. And then I'd have to pull that up when we would go around the corner, and that thing was heavy.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Boy.
And then when we had hay, Dad would cut the hay, then I would ride the rake. Because with the rake, it was, real wide, and then it would gather up the hay, and then I'd have to trip something to dump it so that there would be, and then you had to have a straight furrow of that. Sometimes it was out of line, but you try to trip it just as you were going over it. So
Wow.
yeah,
Now you said that your mother's mother lived with you all?
yeah, she would come and stay with us until I was about 10 when she passed away.
Wow.
Because her husband was gone, and in those days there was nothing for the wife that was left.
And what was her name?
Ida,
Ida.
I-
And when was she born around?
around the about 3 years, either before or after the Civil War.
Wow.
It's in the 1880s somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it seems to me it's 1883, but I'm not sure.
Right.
Do you remember anything about her that?
Yes, she never had her hair cut, and she was from Virginia area part of the time.
So she had really long hair then, huh?
Yes, very long hair, and she had a special ivory colored comb that she would comb it all the way down every day,
Wow.
and then put it in a special knot or way of putting a bun in the back of her head.
Anybody in the family look like her?
Boy, that's a good question. Mother did.
And now, who looked the most like your mom? Or like your sisters?
I'd say probably Helen. I mean, that's my
Mm-hmm.
thinking,
Mm.
but I really can't say other than that. I
And
just
your
know
mom's first name was?
Aura.
That was Aura, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And my grandmother's maiden name was Childress.
Oh, right.
She was Ida Childress. And as I say, she was raised in Virginia, and when she married Will Hughes, then she moved up near Butler area.
And then your father's mother lived close by, but you didn't see her?
No, she was in Harrisville.
Okay.
Yeah, she had a house of her own right across the playing field from the high school that I went to. Then she got so that she needed to be with someone, so she moved in with Aunt Letha and Uncle Si. They're in town also. So that's where she lived for years. She had like a room of her own. And
Now, Aunt Letha, who is that?
that's my dad's sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One of his sisters.
So you went to college or
Yes.
university, whatever.
Went to Grove City College for 3 years. Then got married and went to the King's College in Delaware and graduated from there.
So before you went to college, did you already know what you wanted to major in, or just didn't really know
As
at
I
that point?
was saying, I was thinking of being a missionary, a teacher, and that third one I think was like a doctor or
Mm-hmm.
boy, it does not come to mind what the third one was.
Yeah.
But I ended up majoring in English. Probably because Bob majored in English, and we took as many courses as we could together.
Okay.
So when it came to graduating, I was an English major
Okay.
with an English degree. which is about as useless as a fifth wheel.
Well, unless you're teaching, right?
Well, yeah, it helped with teaching, but I needed to go back to school to get education courses when I
Okay.
went to teaching. Yeah.
Now, did you minor in anything when you were going to the
I don't
college?
remember minoring in anything, no. And at the time, Grove City College was pretty liberal.
Oh, really?
It's very conservative now,
Really?
yeah.
So, when you went to college there, did you live on campus?
No, I mean, I'm only 5 miles away.
Okay.
But
So,
it was liberal back then, so what did that mean back then?
did you ever hear of Bardianism?
No.
No.
If you're reading the word and it seems like the word of God, then it's the word of God to you. You know, things like that.
Wow.
And other philosophers or theologians were taught, like Dick's wife, Anne, her father was one of my Bible teachers. And, you know, he was teaching the Bible, but was sort of knocking your feet out from under you as you went along. That's what I mean by liberal.
I see.
In
Oh,
that
so it was
way.
supposed to be a
It's supposed to be a Christian college.
but a liberal Christian
Yeah.
in their theology.
Interesting.
Mm.
I went back the second year that the World War II veterans entered colleges. So
Oh, wow.
the college went from 200 or 300 to almost 1,000
Wow.
overnight.
Wow.
Right, because many of them were coming there to learn trades and
Well, the GI Bill was
Yeah.
paying for their education.
which president was that?
that was
that
after
was
World
over-
War II.
Okay, so FDR.
Yeah, that's what no,
Oh no,
no, Truman.
Truman.
But
Sorry.
that was a bill that was passed, that the government would pay their college education.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
the GI Bill.
Yeah, that was a big help. But here I was with all these grown men. I mean, they weren't just coming out of high school.
Right.
Like I was.
Right.
Like Bob. He had been in the service for 2 or 3 years and had been in Grove City College for a year before I ever met him.
Wow,
So, yeah.
wow.
But I still passed. Thank you, Lord.
How did you meet him?
All right, it didn't open until the middle of September at that time. And around October, I heard of InterVarsity. You've heard of InterVarsity?
Yeah.
They were having a prayer meeting in the history building on Lower Campus. So I went, and he was there. And here I was as a freshman for, I think, the first 6 weeks. You had to wear around your neck, a rope around your neck, with a great big 8x11 card with your name, anything about your address,
Really?
what you're taking or whatever, and you had to wear that when you were on campus. So he sees my name, Critchlow, and being from Suffern, I have an uncle and his family there, and he knew them. And Edgar's best friend was my cousin. So that Bob comes and says, "Are you related to, Larry and Harry Critchlow?" I said, "Oh, that's my uncle and cousin."
Oh.
So that's how we met. Yeah.
So was it not long after that you got together, or?
We had our first date December 12th, that
Wow.
first year.
December 12th of,
That'd be 1947.
okay.
Russell was just a baby.
So 47, so you were born in 29, so then you would have been 18?
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. So, I asked about college. Okay.
Well, then, in 1966, yes, Bob had an emergency bleeding ulcer, or a perforated ulcer, they called it. And that got me to thinking, I don't have a degree that I can go out and get a job in case he is incapacitated.
Yeah.
So I started back to Westchester college. It was college then, it's now called university, and started taking education courses. And I took logic, I'll go back to the King's College later, but the fellow who was teaching it was one who had written a book about, I can't remember the great evangelist that was now, but he's a Christian, and he speaks in churches and so on. He was teacher in a secular school.
Mm-hmm.
And so 5 of us were taking logic. I had never had logic before, and here I'm taking it in graduate school. Well, 3 out of the 5 had never had logic,
Oh, wow.
so he just taught logic. So I thought that was pretty good. But logic, going back to the King's College where I had my senior year, it came, month or 2 before graduation, and they called me in and they said, "You cannot graduate. You haven't taken all the required courses."
Oh, no.
Because in my senior year, I was taking freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior courses
Oh, wow.
to get all the requirements in. And they said, whoever was my counselor didn't notice that you had to have logic to graduate. Well, they waived it so that I could graduate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I had a question. Where did it go? Oh, yeah. So when you went back to university, so that was to college. Was that an education degree? Is what that was considered?
That's what I was working toward.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she would have been like 37, because she said it was in 66, so she would have
Yeah.
been
Oh, okay.
37.
Well, we had a lady in the congregation that the children loved her and her dog. And she volunteered to babysit because I would go at night.
Mrs. Whitaker.
Mrs.
And her dog
Whitaker.
Penny.
Yes, I remember.
So you at this point, did you have all of your children, or had they all been born at this point?
Your youngest was 5.
66.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's right. That's right. Okay, so do you remember kind of the experience around when you were having your first child, Aunt Tora?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Bob's parents were there, and Helen and Homer, for some reason, were there when it came time to go to the hospital. I think his parents stayed around long enough to find out what it was, and then they were gone. And Helen and Homer had to be somewhere, but they were close by. But it was the day of our Sunday school picnic.
Really? So you were at the picnic?
No.
and-
No, I had gone to the hospital the night before, and she was born probably just after midnight or something like that on that date. So, yeah, and Dr. Rohrmeyer was in our church, he and his wife and family, and he was our family doctor. Never charged us a thing. He
Really?
didn't charge any pastor or priest in town.
Wow.
That was his policy.
That sounds like a good
But,
policy.
but they gave me enough, something to put me to sleep enough or to numb the pain that I was not awake when she was born.
Okay.
So
So
I can't really tell you much about it.
so you kind of woke up and then she was there.
And then she was there.
Wow, how do they push? I don't get it.
I don't know, but
That sounds convenient.
yeah.
Yeah. Just wake up and there she is.
Yeah.
Wow. So you remember the moment when you first saw Aura? Did you know that? Did you know immediately you were going to name her Aura?
Yes, we had already decided if it was a girl. See, Aura's my mother's name and Ruth is his mother's name.
Okay.
So it's Aura Ruth. Yeah, and if it was going to be a boy, it was going to be Robert Critchlow.
Well, they saved that name for later.
Yeah. I didn't think we'd ever be able to use it, the way things were going anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wasn't too long after that you had Faith.
Yeah.
Now, was she named after anyone in particular?
Bob named her.
Okay. So, so he just came up with the name, and you thought, I like it, and
Well, she came early. And I think the experience that we had, wondering is she going to make it or what is wrong with her and so on, brought up the name Faith to him.
gotcha.
That's my understanding of what he said, I believe,
Yeah,
if I can remember
yeah,
correctly. Because she was they didn't even weigh her when she was first born. After a day or two, they weighed her. She was 5 pounds something.
really.
And she would eat, I could say like a little pig, but she really ate well, but then everything came back up.
Oh no.
So something was wrong. So on a Wednesday night, a nurse rode with me and I drove all three of us to downtown, the worst part of Philadelphia, to the Children's Hospital. And they admitted her. And Dr. Koop, who was Surgeon General
Oh, right.
of the United States, he's the one that finally decided to go ahead and operate on the pyloric valve,
Yeah.
which is between the stomach and the intestines. And as soon as they did, it just bloomed out. And she's been fine ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
How do you spell his name? What was it? It was
Everett Koop.
K-O-O-P.
K-O-O-P.
C. Everett Koop.
Oh, Everett Koop. Yeah. So when it came time, and to feed her intravenously, it was in her forehead. Ah,
Her forehead.
yes. That
Oh, no.
that was hard to see.
Oh.
But Dr. and Mrs. Romer went with me. I mean, they drove me to pick her up to take her back to the hospital in, I was going to say Lewisburg, in Westchester.
Yeah.
And then I had to wait for her to get to be 6 pounds before I could bring her home. She was in the hospital 6 weeks
Wow.
before I could bring her home. When she did come home, she had diaper rash and thrush in her mouth.
No, no.
I had to put this purple stuff that just stained permanently anything it touched
Mm.
in her mouth every morning. I had to put that in her mouth to get rid of that thrush.
And did that help to soothe it at all, or?
I don't know. It got rid of it.
Right.
I don't know
Wow.
what all, it was to do other than to get rid of it.
Right.
But you'd think coming home from a hospital that those two things would not have been true, but it was.
Wow. Wow.
You
So.
know, had to get used to having two.
Yeah. So you had two for a little while, and then you.
And then I had a miscarriage in 2 years.
Okay. 2 years after Faith.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
2 years later, we had, I think it was almost 2 years later, 57 to
61.
Yeah.
And you caused both of us to miss prayer meeting that night.
You seem to all have things to do on prayer meeting night.
March 8th, 1961.
Yeah.
And wait, and so you were living in Pennsylvania, but what part? When you got married, where did you live? When you first got married?
Oh, in Wilmington, Delaware, because he went to seminary there for 2 years, and then the seminary. Well, we still lived there for all of his seminary. The seminary moved from Wilmington, Delaware, to Elkins Park, which is a northern suburb, elite suburb of Philadelphia. But he and some of the other students went back and forth that last year instead of trying to move somewhere. Because I was teaching Christian school there just a couple blocks from where we lived. And that's what was keeping us afloat.
So, another interesting point in history was the Vietnam War. So, do you feel like, did you know some men that had to go and fight in that war, or?
Oh, okay. We had, back on the farm, just over the hill was a family.
Well, my camera decided to be rude and cut us off in the middle of what we were saying. So I was talking to Grandma about the Vietnam War, and she started mentioning about how there was a family up over the hill where she grew up, and then you can continue on from there.
Okay. Their name is Bailey. It was Jim Bailey and his brother Fred would fly Piper Cubs, especially on a Sunday afternoon, because Grove City had an airport, so they didn't have far to go to get the plane. And then they would do stunts like flying under the electric wires and going upside down and, you know, just all different things. And then in the Vietnam War, Jim was a helicopter pilot and had 3 times of going over there to try and help, and was killed the 3rd time. So he apparently would rescue people, you know, and bring them back
Wow.
from the front, and apparently got too close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we kind of skipped over the birth of your youngest. Do you have any special memories? of your son's
Surprise! It's a boy!
birth? Any other recollections?
Oh, boy. Trying to think. Well, the Steeles, Mary Elizabeth and her husband, Francis Steele, they took care of Orr and Faith while you were born. And then they were so excited, a brother! And I think that Bob and his dad both were very happy to have another Robert Duvall.
Mm.
So, I had to learn or to buy boys' things. I'm so used to girls' things. And, you know, there's nothing coming to mind at the moment, but I'm sure there are some really, really special times. Oh, Bobby, I'm sorry. Oh, my. Some memories work and some don't.
Well, maybe we'll say something that will trigger one or something.
And that would be great.
Now, as far as the Vietnam War, though, were you generally in favor of it yourself, or did you think that it was not worth fighting, or was there just kind of an in-between kind of feeling, or?
In between, leaning toward, yes, we should be over there,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But, you know, I wasn't really personally involved,
Yeah.
so, you know, I was sort of really hands-off. That's about all I remember. I just remember, well, I do remember people coming home and people booing them. I remember that.
Yeah.
Just felt so badly for the soldiers. I mean, it just didn't make sense.
Especially since you had seen in World War II how a lot of them were very much celebrated. I would expect.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Well, there were VE Day and VJ Day.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I mean, we went to town and people were jumping in the street.
Wow.
And, bands were playing. Everybody was, you know, horns were blowing. Everybody was so happy the war was over
Wow.
in Europe. And then we had the VJ Day.
Right.
The war was over in Japan too. So.
That must have been a time of very patriotic and nationalist, like pride and
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I can imagine.
Every once in a while you would hear of someone who was caught with a shortwave radio in the basement, letting the Germans know something, or the Japanese, you know. They really were very strict on shortwave radios or anything
Wow.
like that. And I forget now what I was going to say. Go ahead.
well, you were saying that they were very strict on shortwave radios. Now, would they go to jail or prison?
I would
For doing that.
imagine.
Yeah.
Also, the mail, the letters, you'd get letters that would have parts blanked out.
Really?
That if they were mentioning they were going into a certain place or something, it would
Wow.
be blacked out.
Wow. So then the letters would actually be checked before they
Oh, yeah,
got to their destination.
yes.
Wow.
Whatever the soldiers wrote,
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. Now, I know you were more on the farm, but did you ever, once films started coming out and you were able to go and see them in a theater, do you remember kind of that first experience, what that was like?
Well,
That's kind of a Rebecca question.
we went to the movies many Saturday evenings, and they would have a newsreel, which
Okay.
would be a movie of our soldiers and what they were doing in different areas of the war,
Yeah.
as much as they could put, without hurting the war effort. So that was a help. And then they put out a lot of war movies too,
Okay.
which was nice, like the 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. That was Doolittle and his group that
Right.
went over, and that was interesting. And then the Battle of the Bulge and D-Day, the longest day.
Right.
I mean, and Okinawa, and the Fuji, and there were different islands in the Pacific that they would have movies, how they would try and take over the island.
Now, do you remember, were the films more emphasizing our victories and not our
Oh, yeah.
losses? Okay.
Certainly. Yes, no losses shown. You don't want to show people that, because everybody was trying to keep their morale high. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would even gather rags as well as metal and newspapers. There were just different things that were precious at that time for the war effort.
Yeah.
I don't know what it all was about, but
Right.
I just remember them doing that.
Would you, your family gather around ever and listen to the radio?
Oh, yes. Once we got a radio, we heard the news 15 minutes each day of the week, not on the weekend. Lowell Thomas was the commentator.
Yeah.
He had a really good voice, and he just gave the news. No,
Unbiased.
not saying this is good news or that should never have happened and that's terrible that they did that. No, he just gave the news. But Dad, he didn't want anybody saying anything when that fellow was on. He wanted to hear the news. So from 6:45 in the evening until 7, Monday through Friday, nobody said a word.
Wow.
Yeah,
So only 15 minutes.
yes.
Wow. So that was definitely an important time of day.
Yeah. But we did get the Butler Eagle paper too.
Okay. So
Yes,
you
yes,
got
we
the
did
news
get a
from that.
newspaper, yes.
So what would be playing on the radio at other times? Music?
I remember Lux Radio Theater on a Saturday night from either 9 to 10 or 10 to 11. And they had, good stories on there.
That late at night?
That late at night.
Wow.
Lux Radio Theater it was
Lux
called.
Radio Theater.
And I would stay up and listen to it. Dad and Mother would go to bed and I'd listen to that.
Wow.
It was better than reading a book.
Yeah. That's so neat. I think I would not be surprised if you could probably find some of those online now. Some of
It could be, I've never thought to look it up.
yeah. I'll write a note here to look that up later.
Yeah.
Lux Radio Theater.
Lux Radio Theater.
Let me see here.
Lux was a big soap company at that time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever buy soap from them?
Oh yeah, we had Lux that
Was-
would come out in flakes. Instead of being grainy or like a powder, it would be flakes. And it was really nice, good on your hands. It didn't make your hands feel rough.
So your hands felt like they were living in the lap of luxury. Hence
From
the name
Lux.
Lux. So that's interesting. So now that was not Lux's radio station. It was just that
No.
they sponsored the theater.
Yeah, they put it on.
Okay.
And we would listen to cowboy music. Oh, yes, we listened a lot to a station out of Wheeling, West Virginia, WWVA. And they had different Western singers.
Really?
And then they would come to like a local high school or a local Grange.
Yeah.
And we would go, and that's the reason I play the mandolin, or did play, because I
Ah.
liked the mandolin that they would play and having them sing. And then we'd listen to them on the radio. We saw them. you know.
That's
That-
neat.
That was the big Hollywood at that time.
Wow.
For us.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you remember any of the names of the ones that you listened to or saw?
Yes, there was Blaine was one. Blaine
Yeah.
Smith.
Wayne Smith?
Eleanor especially loved to hear him sing. I enjoyed the couple, Lula Bell and Scotty.
Is it Lulu Bell or Lula?
Lulu Bell.
And Scotty,
And she
okay.
loved to sing that song, Does a Spearmint Lose Its Flavor on the Bedpost Overnight?
Oh, okay. I don't know that I know the song, but I think I've heard the title before.
Well, the spearmint was a kind of chewing gum.
Okay.
And going to bed, you just take it out of your mouth and put it on a bedpost. And the song was, Does it lose its flavor overnight? You know?
Now, would people actually do that? They put it on the bedpost and then take it and put it back in their mouth when they wake up?
That's what the song was about. I don't know. I never tried it.
Well, that's a better subject matter to be singing about than some of the music that we have these days.
Yeah.
But let me see. I know there was. Let me see. How about the Vietnam question was a Rebecca one, and also the motion pictures.
Yeah, I saw a lot of motion pictures. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed the movies. There was at one time I just really thought a lot of Clark Gable,
Right.
and I would get movie magazines and cut out pictures of them. I had them all over my bedroom wall.
Oh, now were the pictures in black and white, or were they in color?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
We had color then, but I don't remember whether the pictures black and white or colored.
Clark Gable.
Clark Gable.
Did you have a favorite film that he acted in?
Not that I can think of. I can tell you what my favorite film was at that time was Random Harvest.
I haven't seen that.
Ah!
Oh, well, I guess we're gonna
how
have to
could
fix that.
be?
Have not experienced that in my life so far. Well, I've only had 28 years so far, so.
Yeah.
Or say the name again.
Random Harvest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess it came out in the 50s.
Probably.
Okay.
It says 1942.
Oh, 42.
1942.
Okay.
Really? You found it on there. Good.
Okay. Well, we might have to watch that one. Okay.
Does it have the actor, Greer Garson, I believe, is the lady,
Yes, Greer Garson.
and Ronald Coleman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm guessing they played the lead roles
Yes.
in the film. Okay.
Yes, it starts out takes place in England
Mm-hmm.
after World War One.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting setting.
Yeah. He's in a hospital because apparently he has been too close to a bombing and he lost his memory.
Okay.
And he walks away from that when the war, they're all celebrating, the war's over, and he walks out of that sanatorium and meets this lady.
Okay, so it's a love story then.
Yes.
All right. So, of course, I know you could not just take a VHS tape out and put it in and watch it whenever you wanted to. So would it be playing in the theater and then you
Yes,
would
that's
just
where
go-
I saw it, was in the theater.
And so then that's where you're able to see it multiple times,
I
with their.
don't know whether I was able to do that or not. I don't remember.
But I'm guessing that they had reruns of films that would come into the theater, right? That you could go and watch like a film that came out 10 years ago, and
Could be,
Yeah.
it just doesn't ring a bell, let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
yeah, because I know not everybody could just have not everybody had a reel-to-reel projector and all of that in their home where they could just watch movies whenever they wanted to.
We had to get dressed up and get in the car and drive 11 miles into town.
Now, did you guys ever go to a drive-in theater? I know that
Yes,
probably came a little bit
Yes,
later.
I have been, but trying to think of who I was with. I don't remember. No.
Maybe a special date?
No,
No?
I didn't have many special dates, just a few, and most of those were like the square dances or something.
Oh,
like
square dances, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. So when you go to a square dance, would you go to a barn to square dance in?
Usually a grange. A grange
Grange.
is a farmer's, what should I say, a farmer's meeting place.
Okay.
And to
Okay.
get information from the government and to find out what other farmers are doing, and so it's a meeting place.
Okay.
And,
Interesting.
we would have, that's where most of the square dances I went to anyway.
So obviously there was a lot of space in those granges to
Enough space in here.
move your feet.
Well,
Did-
to have different squares.
Right, okay.
Dancing.
Now, did you guys ever do any other kind of dancing besides the square dancing?
Well, what they called round dancing, the polka or the waltz, yeah.
Polka or waltz? Yeah, it's fun to watch. I've never really done any of those. I mean, I guess when I did the parent dance, in the Nutcracker, I kind of did a waltz. But yeah, I guess I really haven't done any of those square or round dancing or anything like that. It looks really fun though when I see it. It doesn't look. I don't know, not provocative, but it looks.
It's not as intimate.
Yes, and it just looks fun.
Pure
It's
and
just
fun.
it's just a good, innocent time to dance together. That's neat.
When did you first go on a vacation outside of the United States?
Huh.
I'm just checking
Was
the
it with
trips
a
we're going.
cruise?
No. Let me think. When I was with Bob, we went to Canada,
Oh, okay.
but only just over the line, like at Niagara Falls.
Oh, Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I believe the first after that was with the Super 60s, which is a senior citizen group in Westminster, Maryland, in the Church of the Open Door that Edgar and I went to. And after Edgar had passed away, they went on a trip to the Maritime Provinces, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia.
Oh,
I really enjoyed that one.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. We're at the Bay of Fundy. Did you remember studying that in geography? Whereas here's the lay of the land, and then it drops way, way down. And we were able to walk down about 7 or 8 flights of steps down to where it was down here. But within 6 hours, it was filled up with water up there.
Really?
Ooh.
It's called the
And-
Bay of Fundy.
And where is that?
It's in New Brunswick,
Hmm.
which is part of Canada.
Right.
And they were in another time zone too.
Wow.
But we went across Constitution Bridge from New Brunswick to Prince Edward Island. And that's closed in the wintertime because it's so long. And the water freezes and bumps against it. They just don't want cars going over.
Mm.
And then we went to where House of the Green Gables.
Oh.
We did see the railroad station. Where she first saw the gentleman when
forgot the story now. It's been a while.
When Anne first came,
Mm.
they thought it was going to be a boy, and here it was a girl. So we saw the train station, and then there's a house built that looks like Green Gables there.
What would you say was your favorite place that you've been to? Visited?
Favorite place.
And you've been out west, right? Like to Colorado or
Yes, we Super 60s again. We flew from Baltimore to Arizona. Trying to think. Name some of the big cities in Arizona.
Oh goodness.
Sedona, Phoenix.
I think it was Phoenix. I think it was. I think. Anyway, we got on a tour bus there and went north and saw
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon.
Wow.
We saw Sedona. We saw different rock formation places.
Mm.
Get different canyons. Can't think of the names of them. We saw a lake, a man-made lake. In fact, we had a boat ride on that with breakfast on the boat.
Ooh.
Ooh, that sounds
Fun.
neat.
Oh, it was where Evel Knievel, do you remember?
Yes.
Where he had gone over a place that nobody else has done.
Good.
So
Wow.
we saw that.
Wow.
Then from there we went north to Yellowstone, and then Mount Rushmore, and came back to Custer Park, where we got in a Jeep van, and the buffalo would come and look in the window. We'd see the baby buffalo are red.
Oh.
It was interesting to see
Wow.
the baby buffalo. Then when we flew out, it was to Arizona, but when we got to Denver, we flew back. But as we were driving from Custer Park to the airport in Denver, we were on the outer loop, and we went by Columbine High School
Really?
on the way to the airport. So
Wow.
we were, because that was not too long after that had happened.
Wow.
Wow. Now, as far as growing up, this is another Rebecca question.
Okay.
She said, I'd also like to hear stories from her childhood and adolescence, especially the more formative memories. So,
Well, okay. I sort of remember this, but that they tell me anyway. At 3, well, let me explain. We had the farmhouse, and then you go down a little sidewalk, and here's your spring house that has the water that you use in the house. And there's a deep place, and there's like a cemented place that it was maybe 3 or 4 inches deep.
mhm.
And that's where we would put the Jell-O to get it gelled. That's where we would cool our milk, and so on. I was always told, don't get too close to that deep part.
Oh no.
So what happened? Apparently I got too close, and I went head first down. And I don't know how long I was in there, but they got me out, and then I came to.
Ah.
And I think I remember coming to, but I'm not sure. That's when they say, I'm not sure.
Right.
I have
Wow.
that memory, or whether they told me about it.
Wow.
Right, and you're remembering the memory of them telling you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
But we had cousins that lived in Chester, Virginia, just below Richmond. And they were about, a carload would come up and stay for 2 weeks on the farm. It would be Aunt Florence. She was the half-sister of my grandmother.
Mhm.
And she would come with her children. Her son, Eugene, would drive. And we would get watermelons.
Mm.
And we would be all outside by the spring house eating watermelons, see who could spit the seed the furthest. And then when we finished, we would take the rinds and chase one another all over the farm trying to wash their face with the rind.
That sounds fun. We might have to try that this summer. We'll get a watermelon tonight and get to spitting.
Spit the seeds.
spit the seeds and chase.
We always had cats and dogs that were tame. We had some that were police dogs to police where our chickens were to keep people from taking them.
Wow.
But we had a beagle dog named Fanny. And when we'd see that she was going to have puppies, pretty soon, where's Fanny? She'd go off to have them, and then we'd have to hunt for them. And the same way with the kitty cats. There was one kitten, that was Angora. It had the longest
Oh
hair.
wow, what color?
Bluish.
Ooh, like a gray blue?
Yeah,
Really?
gray blue.
Oh.
And I just loved that thing, and I just held, and I killed it with trying to, just keep it with me all the time. And it died early, and I just felt so bad. And just, I just wanted to pet it and to be
Aw.
with it. And and I had a neighbor, Nellie Pickford was my playmate growing up. She didn't have anyone to play with there, and I had no one to play with here. And we meet in between. We had a swing that was a limb of a tree at the fence that we would meet and play.
Oh,
and then,
wow, that's fun.
yeah, it was. And she had a bicycle. I'm going to back up a little bit. My sister Helen, when she was 12, between 12 and 13 in that area, she had rheumatic fever.
Mm.
And it got to the place where they had to take her to the doctor. I guess it was in the wintertime, and they had a time keeping her warm. But it left her with a leaky valve, so that she was not supposed to do any vigorous work, like riding the tricycle or a bicycle.
Ooh.
So it was quite a while before we even had a tricycle. And that was indoors in the kitchen, riding around the kitchen table. That was our fun.
Uh-huh.
And then bicycle, I pretty much waited until she left home and I got a bicycle. And I would ride it into 6 miles into town to school, maybe once or twice in the warm weather. I didn't ride it that far very often, but I rode the bike a lot.
Wow.
And we would ride together. But Nellie was a very good friend. And she married the son of our thrasher, who would thrash our wheat and oats, and their wheat and oats. And they had 2 girls that lived in town. When Dad built a house, it was only 2 houses away from where she lived with her husband and family. But when the older girl was in kindergarten, Nellie was bringing her home from school, from kindergarten, and I don't know all the details. I just know as she was turning in, a car came and hit her and killed her. So
The little girl killed her.
no, killed the
Killed-
mother,
Killed
Nellie.
Nellie. Oh.
Yeah, the girl's still living.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
that really knocked us all for a loop.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so those were some good, good,
Yeah.
memories to hear, even though some of them were not fun memories, but they were definitely formative ones. So,
Well, I might tell you when my grandmother died. Well, when my grandma Hughes, the one that stayed with us a lot, when I was 10 years old, her leg, there was something wrong with her leg. I'm thinking now the circulation became very, very poor, and ended up, they had to amputate her leg.
Oh.
Then the other one got the same way. And when they amputated that, then she passed away.
oh wow.
But in those days, you didn't go to the funeral home. They brought the casket to the home. So in our parlor.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. My camera decided to do it again. Grandma was describing how how they would, when her grandmother passed away, that they brought her casket into the parlor and left it there for 3 days,
Opened. Yeah.
and so Grandma had to go in and see that.
Yeah. I was 10, and so I had never had any experience with a dead body before, and I kept waiting for her to breathe,
Yeah.
and it was traumatic. Hard to get to sleep at night,
Yeah.
and it's something, that stayed with me for quite a while. So, but that was the end of that, so,
Right.
yeah.
Now, speaking of sleeping, while the camera was off, you were mentioning that you would hear mice.
Yes. Oh, yes. We, when we'd have company or something, we'd all laugh, thinking, moving furniture up there.
So they were really loud then, huh?
Well, it's loud when everything else is quiet. In the country, you don't have cars going by.
That's true.
Any,
Okay.
any other noise.
Right.
So you hear exactly what's going on up there.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Oh, and in the winter time, we only had a furnace, a pretty good wide, area furnace between the living room and the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all the heat we had.
Oh wow.
So you'd wake up in the morning and you could scrape the ice on the inside of the window
Ooh.
or see
Oh.
your breath.
So you would you be bundled up in a lot of blankets and
Yes.
thick pajamas and everything?
Yes. Yes,
Oh.
all of the above.
Goodness. What if you had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night though?
Well, around 10, when I was 10, we got electricity and had a bathroom. But before that, you used, what do they call?
Yeah.
Outhouse?
No, well, not at night. You don't,
Okay.
nighttime is for the animals.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn that growing up on the farm. Nighttime is for the animals, daytime is for people.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't go out and walk,
Go to the bathroom.
because we had quite a ways to get to the outhouse.
Yeah.
But you would have jugs. Yeah.
Oh, jugs. Okay. In your room?
Yeah. In
Okay.
the bedroom, yeah.
Well, there you go.
They had different names for them. I'm not going to mention all of them.
Oh, okay. We'll let you keep that to your inside your memory.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so another really deep Rebecca question. What would she say are the biggest changes American culture has experienced, or how has it changed? And what would she attribute these changes to?
Oh, Rebecca. I love you. Oh, my.
Now, let me see if we can get a little bit more focused than just culture.
Well, I was thinking about cars.
Yeah,
Cars have certainly changed. We were just glad to have a gear shift.
yeah,
And then it got to where you didn't need to shift gears. That was a big thing. And then power steering? Ooh, it was so easy to move from going around corners, not have, all your muscle to get it turning to go around corners. And then the streamlined look.
right.
And then they did away with the rumble seat. I think the rumble seat should have stayed. But
Oh, why?
you've never been in a rumble seat?
I have not.
Oh,
I've not experienced that in my life so far.
you haven't seen it on movies or anything either? Well, it's a
Not that I
coupe.
know of.
It's a
Okay.
coupe car with, instead of a trunk that opens up, and here you can have here's a seat
Oh,
out in
okay.
the air.
Okay.
It's called a
Well, that
rumble
sounds
seat.
neat.
Yeah,
So-
it was.
So you would sit in it in a rumble seat at different times in your life?
Yeah, but
Okay.
you can't drive from there. Someone in the front
Right.
has to drive. But yeah, that was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry they did away with that.
Wow. Was it because of safety reasons, do you think?
I
Not
don't
as
know.
safe.
Probably, the government got in on things.
Right.
That's one change, that the government kept getting into it, more and more things.
Right.
Let's see, in farming, the machinery changed. I can remember we'd harvest our wheat and oats with a binder. We'd put twine around so many sticks of the grain, and would be a sheaf.
Yeah.
And then we'd take, I think, 10 sheaves, 9 around, and the 10th one was on top. And then when it came thrashing time, then they would gather those in a wagon and take it to the thrashing machine. Well, then the next thing was combine. But it wasn't like the combine today. Dad was there in the tractor pulling the combine, and I'd be back there holding the sack with the grain getting in it.
Really?
And then I'd have to tie it tight enough so that throwing it down the chute to the ground, that it didn't all open up.
Oh, did you ever
Oh.
have it open up?
Oh, yes. That's no fun.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm so glad they changed the combine to what it is today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think when she was talking about culture in America, you really see, well, for one, I would say children are not as honoring or as respectful. And, like I had mentioned earlier, the music, at least a lot of it really is
changed.
about, a lot of things that really we shouldn't be singing about. And a lot of the movies are a lot, just display a lot of things that the older movies back in the day, they would have had, a bit more morals, even if the movie creators were not Christians. There was a little bit more.
A lot of the old movies left it up to you to fill in whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just thinking of something, but it's gone.
Well, yeah, I mentioned the music, and also the kids with their they're not as respectful these days. I feel they're not nearly as honoring. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Oh, and there are more breakups in the family.
Definitely.
Yeah, more children, more abortions.
Right.
And
And to you would attribute that to what?
the depravity of man.
Yes.
Yeah. And the government not pouncing down hard enough. And apparently there have been abortions almost ever since mankind.
Right.
I mean, but it's just got easier and easier. Handier and handier.
Yeah, they're being enabled in a way in a lot of places. Although, thankfully, there have been a lot of laws passed recently. Now that Trump is in office, to start doing away with abortion. Although that does not stop illegal abortions. That's something that only, in my opinion, only belief and accepting Jesus as your Savior and truly knowing Him and knowing that that kind of a thing is not something that pleases Him, at that point, that's when you truly change, because just making something illegal will not stop it from happening. It just will stop it from happening legally. So, but
Many times making something illegal just makes somebody want to do it more.
exactly, prohibition. That's one example. All the speakeasies that came up during that time in history, that just enabled the mafia to come in and just make a ton of money on alcohol.
And I lived during the Prohibition, and I do not remember it. Because
Really?
we didn't have alcohol anyway.
Okay.
I mean, it just never entered my sphere of being.
Yeah.
Yes. Then churches changed too. There was modernism in the church, and then there would be a split off, like with the Bible Presbyterian. That's what I was for a good many years.
Mhm.
And with Dr. Carl McIntyre, and mission boards became separate. so that they could go out and preach the gospel, not how to raise better crops
Mhm.
or how to be a better person by doing this or that, the other thing, but coming to know the Lord.
Yeah.
And there were great changes there. And in colleges
Right.
and in the schools, gradually. It's been a gradual thing.
Mm, yeah. And yeah, it seems every generation just.
And buildings, cities just grew and grew,
Right.
and you'd see pictures and wonder how would people ever live in the places like that?
Yeah.
Just
Like a skyscraper, or
yeah.
looking down over where they can see for miles. That's that must have been. Now, did you? I know you went to New York. I don't know how many times you've been there. How many times have you?
To New York City?
Yeah, I know you went there when 9/11 happened. I'd love to hear some of that too.
Back when I was in high school, my sister Eleanor, working, she had the money, and she wanted to go to Suffern
Mm-hmm.
to see my uncle and aunt and cousins. And she took me with her on the train. And my Aunt Pearl and cousin Dorothy took us to New York City.
Really?
And that's the first time I'd ever been there. Yeah.
So, what was your experience like there?
Well, great. I mean, it wasn't like it is today.
Right.
It was just a city.
Mhm.
It wasn't, run by, homeless. You didn't see homeless people
Right.
around and so on. But
Yeah.
that was my first time to New York City.
Was there a particular, at that first time, was there a particular thing you did, like going in a tall building and looking out from it?
We
And,
went up in the Empire State and we
okay.
also saw the dancers.
Rockettes?
The Rockettes. We saw the Rockettes, yes.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Yeah, that was.
That was, where did you see them?
Well, they're in New York City when
Was
that
there-
first time.
Was there a
In New Radio City?
Radio City?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure that's where it was.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's neat. Well, obviously you went there for when 9/11 happened. Now, who
Oh,
did you go
yeah.
with?
Okay, this was with the Southern Baptist. They have what they call disaster relief groups.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the group but had not taken the training yet. But
Okay.
they said, that's okay. We need you anyway,
Yeah.
if you're willing to come. But there was another lady in the church. She and I, her husband took us down to near Harrisburg to go with another group. And went to, that was on a Sunday. We left early in the morning and we got to Brooklyn, the Navy Yard.
Yeah.
And then across the street, about a block and a half, was a jail that was no longer used, and they housed us in the jail. In the jail. And then they said, "Oh, we'd like to go to the Brooklyn Tabernacle for the evening service."
Yeah.
So a whole group of us went to the Brooklyn Tabernacle that night,
Oh, wow.
and that was my first time there. So that was very monumental.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's very memorable for sure. I
Yes.
mean, not only a very unfortunate historic time, but just quite the experience being there at that the Brooklyn Tabernacle and during that time. I mean, were they having like any kind of a vigil there, or?
Well, it was a very sad time.
Yeah.
Many of the people had lost ones in the 9/11.
Yeah.
And we're still having a hard time dealing with it.
Wow. That to me, because I know, during World War II, that was a time when people in the United States felt a little bit more united. They were not so divided. And then to me, I think in my lifetime, the moment that was most true so far in my lifetime was 9/11. Where here these terrorists came and did this, and all of us Americans, we were
standing
we were
together.
united together
Yeah.
against that.
Yes.
Not so much now in 2019, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But things have changed quite a bit in a very short time. And that was 18 years ago that 9/11 took place. But, so you went there and you
Well,
got to help.
Yes, the place where we had to set up the kitchen and the tents and so on for them to eat, for some to eat, the workers to eat, was right along the Hudson River.
Yeah,
And we would go out toward the river and look under the Brooklyn Bridge and see one of the buildings that was close by, the two that went down, they were talking about taking it down.
really?
And one day we heard that it was going to be taken down, so we all went out to see what they meant. You know?
Right.
But it never happened.
Really?
So I don't know where they got the report. But we were within a half a block of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Wow.
So my job, well, let's back up. The lady that I went with, her name was Shelvia. She would make up the coffee real early in the morning. She'd
Mhm.
get up early and go and make that, and then help with making the breakfast and the lunch and the supper for the people who are trying to, the fire workers, the fire people, the different places in the city where people were working to try and get things taken care of.
Right.
We just would supply food for them.
Yeah.
And that we would fix it, the Southern Baptists would fix it. The Red Cross had, can't think of the name, that what they call their vehicle.
Like a
But-
mobile unit kind of a thing.
Yeah. And then they would take it to wherever the paper said that was for.
Yeah.
Because we would get the order from the place, how many were there, and they would fix, at a certain place, that many.
Yeah.
And it was for them. And what I had to do was look at the order and make sure everything was right.
Wow.
And I got acquainted with one of the drivers of the Red Cross thing, and one day she said, "Would you like to go with me?" I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
So we went across the Brooklyn Bridge and north to like a telephone place.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it was called, but to drop off the food and to pick up what the dirty dishes from the day before,
Mm-hmm.
because we had a way to wash the dishes there, and the big containers and so on. They had names for everything, and I can't think of
Yeah.
it now. But Krispy Kreme donuts came in every morning and had trays of Krispy Kreme donuts that were to die for.
Oh, wow.
They just all different, sprinkled ones,
Oh.
candied ones, chocolate ones, you name it. They had it every morning. They brought them
Wow.
in, but they had trailer trucks with supplies, food supply. One was a refrigerator or a freezer one,
Yeah.
where the frozen stuff was in, and they had set up gas stoves to heat up whatever was to be. But the things that they would put the food in had a false bottom,
Mm-hmm.
so that if it was hot stuff, they would put boiling water in there. If it was cold stuff, they put ice cubes to keep them whatever temperature they needed to be.
Wow.
The bathroom there at the jail had no partitions
Oh,
for
no.
anything,
Really?
really. That was a little, you had to do some thinking,
Oh.
so that was interesting.
Oh, no.
And we were all in one room with cots here, like
Yeah.
for jail, they just
Yeah.
have cots.
How many people do you think were in the room there?
Probably 20.
Okay. So you couldn't just get up and announce, like, I'm the one that's going to be using the bathroom right now, so no one else go in there.
That's right. Needless to say, I did not take a shower.
Yes, I don't blame you. I would not have either.
But it was an experience. Oh, and Doug made a remark that Faith told me. He said, "I'd like to see your mom behind bars, since we were in prison." So I had one of the ladies take a picture of me, behind where there were bars.
I'll have to look at that picture if
That
you
was fun.
find that somewhere. So Luke had a particular question. This was his only question that he sent to me. He says, another question is how she has seen the internet change the world. And I think a good direction to go with that is when one of the big things that internet's changed is communication. Social media, being able to go on Facebook and see people that you wouldn't normally be in contact with, but keep up with their lives. And I mean, to me, it's a lot of times it's very much information overload.
Well, I enjoy what I can see with people who I wouldn't see ordinarily. Yes.
In a way, in my opinion at least, in a way, it's kind of like when you'd go to someone's house and they would have you over for dinner and they would take the photo album out and show you photos, of their family or things like that. And Facebook, in a way, at least from the origin of what it was, and still can be used for, is to kind of show photos of what life's like for those people. Although, those are usually photos that are the best times. People don't normally say, okay, I'm having the worst day ever. Here's a picture of me having the worst day ever. But I mean, I guess when you think about it, a lot of the photos that were taken were even years ago were not really realistic in a way too, because it's not like those were the group photos were capturing exactly what was really going on, the family dynamics or things like that, But yeah, I mean, I guess that you could comment on.
Internet for me means I can contact my children at a distance every day.
Yeah.
Whereas before I had to wait maybe a week or two for a letter to come back, and then I would answer that, and it would take, a few days for them to get that, and then, it was just, took longer.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more convenient for sure, and it is neat that I always personally enjoy when I put something on Facebook and then I get a like from Grandma. It's like, oh, she's seen it. I wouldn't know that she had seen it unless she put a like on there. So it shows that she's.
And that group text, that to me was worth the wait. Worth the price of the phone for that.
Yes, because you had the flip phone before and you couldn't get all those group texts.
That's right. That was really special to have that right now,
Yeah.
to know what's going on. And we didn't have that before. No, it was at least 2 weeks during World War II that we would hear a certain battle was fought and what happened, or at least some of what happened, not nearly what really did happen.
Right.
Like they do now. But we didn't have reporters on with a microphone saying, they shouldn't go in there.
Right.
Oh, they're going after them really hard or something.
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah, so that has certainly changed quite a bit.
life was at a much slower pace.
Speaking of that, because I was thinking about Trump's tweets, and then that brought me, in my mind, to fireside chats. Now, do you remember at all those fireside chats? That was President.
I remember listening. Yeah, FDR. Franklin Roosevelt, and he did a good job, and it was soothing.
Yeah.
And what he said, I couldn't tell you.
Were you near the fire while listening to the fireside chat?
We had a fireplace in the parlor that we burned at Christmas time, period. That was the only time when we burned it then, because all the aunts and uncles and cousins came to our house at Christmas time, and we would have it, to be Christmassy.
Gotcha.
And to warm up the room.
Right.
Because otherwise in the winter we didn't use that room because it was cold in there.
So you would, because in the wintertime, because of where your furnace was located, I'm guessing you most the time when you were up, you would be near in that
in the
room.
kitchen or living room, yeah.
So it's very interesting how, because of that, it kind of limited you during the winter time to, those areas. Now, when the warmer weather came, you go outside all the time. You
Yeah, be out in the porch or
could, yeah,
in the parlor. The piano was in the parlor, and when I would be practicing in the wintertime, your fingers really get cold.
Ooh, I can imagine. Now,
Yeah.
you had a porch, so did you have any, like a porch swing or
No, we didn't.
rocking chair?
No,
Just chairs to sit in?
we would take a chair out
Okay,
sometimes.
like a kitchen chair and
Yeah,
sit out there. That's neat.
at least I don't remember
Oh, that,
chairs out there.
that must have been
But
so
then-
peaceful.
Eleanor built a back porch.
Eleanor did.
Eleanor did.
Really?
Screened it in, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
She built it herself?
Well, we would carry the stuff, but she planned it, put it together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She did that.
Did she ever build anything else, or was that it?
Can't think of anything else.
Yeah. Wow.
No, she was, she got the,
Now, she went to college as well?
she took the secretarial course. That was a 2-year course where they learned to take shorthand and typing
Mm.
and filing and
Yeah.
so on. And she worked for 11 years at the big factory
Yeah.
called Cooper Bessemer
Okay.
as a secretary to one of the big wigs. So she did really well
Wow. So she did that for a long time.
for 11 years.
Okay. And then after that, did she stay at home or?
The reason she quit working was that a young man who became pastor of the church just a couple miles from us, and Mother said that he could sleep and have breakfast at our place.
Mm-hmm.
He would talk to the three of us, Eleanor, Helen, and I, and me, and he would say, "Here's Eleanor and Helen, either almost 30 or in their 30s,
Mm-hmm.
and hardly ever even dated,
Yeah.
let alone be getting married." He said, "You've got to go where the fish are." He recommended National Bible Institute in the heart of New York City.
Really?
Really. So Eleanor and Helen packed up, went to New York City. Helen became the secretary to the registrar,
Mm-hmm.
and Eleanor took a 2-year course and graduated. But between, or was it just a 2-year? Maybe she was 3 years. Because between her junior and senior year, she got married.
Really?
They married 3 months after Bob and I did.
Okay. And they
And-
met there at the National
Yes,
Bible
and then they
Institute.
lived there. It was, a tall building, and one floor would be girls, next one may be boys.
Really?
They did not dare get off the elevator if it was the wrong floor.
On the wrong floor.
And by the time she graduated, she was about 8.5 months pregnant.
Really?
Yeah, she became pregnant on the honeymoon. Yes.
Oh, wow. Goodness.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So I kind of brings up a little bit I think this is the last Rebecca question I have not asked yet, because I asked about Vietnam War and also about motion pictures, and I asked Luke's question about internet changing the world. We talked about changes in American culture.
The world has become smaller. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, travel has become so
Yeah.
fast now.
Yeah.
That's just so amazing to me. I think the last question that Rebecca had asked. I didn't ask these in the exact order she sent them, but she said, I'd also be curious to know her perspective on women's rights when she was growing up. And I already have asked you this a couple of times.
What
Just to
women's rights?
Yeah, what women's rights? That's
Oh, dear.
what Grandma has retorted with.
Well, when I was growing up, they voted,
Yes, okay.
so there was
Because
no,
they had that right.
yeah, there was nothing.
Okay, so Grandma was talking. We were mentioning about women's rights. So they did. Women voted,
Yes.
but
And they went to work doing things so that the men could go to war.
right, and that's one of the things that I brought up after the camera cut off. Sadly, so World War II comes. The men go to war. Most of them are gone. The women had to pick up the slack. You have Rosie the Riveter with her. What does it say on her thing? Rosie the Riveter. It says, "We can do it." It's that one there.
Yeah.
Rosie the Riveter.
Very
There we
good.
go.
Now, some men were deferred from going into service, like farmers.
Right, because they were important.
Yeah. And Delmer, my brother-in-law, he was deferred because he was working where they were making big engines and so on that would be needed for the war effort.
Wow. Okay.
So he didn't go.
Wow.
But Homer, my Helen's husband, was in, and so was Eleanor's husband. Were in the service.
Wow. Now when it comes to women's rights, of course, one of the things why I brought up World War II was that was probably a big time of transition where the women started working. They were more in the workforce at that point, taking positions that they probably did not take before that time.
Yes.
But there probably was, even though you were not as aware of it, there probably was. The women were getting paid less than the men, and the women also.
But nobody thought anything. Well, at least in my realm of acquaintances, no one thought anything of it. They were just glad, hey, she has a job.
So they
Yeah.
were used to it because it's
Yeah.
just that's what you were used to. So, but that was before, that was then made into a
That was before Rebecca.
before Rebecca. Yeah, but I know you were also mentioning the women. You would probably see them more in secretarial roles.
And
more
in
so.
stores.
In stores.
Yes. Nurses.
Nurses,
Yes.
and then
Cleaning ladies.
cleaning ladies. Yeah, but you probably would not see them sitting in an executive desk.
Well, I didn't usually see them in the executive desk. They didn't have those on the farm.
Yeah, but I would think when you were going to college, I'm sure some of the women that you interacted with, it was not their aspiration to say, I'm going to be starting my own company, or I'm going to be
it could
a CEO,
It could be for some of them, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, I'm going to be a teacher, or, missionary, or, yeah.
Yeah. Certainly it wasn't the tech now to take up computers or
Right.
internet or something like that, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting opportunities now that you can work from home and be on the internet, and that's definitely changed a lot. Women have been able to work from home for many years, but it's definitely a lot different what they can do now from home.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah, but so that was the last of Rebecca's questions.
I have limited experience with that, Rebecca.
Yeah, grandma's got limited experience with the women's rights. Favorite U.S. presidents during your lifetime? I know you'd mentioned FDR. You felt like he would never not be president. He was always going to be president of the United States because, at least at that age, when you were that age, he had been president already for so long.
I guess until Trump would be Reagan.
Yeah, Reagan.
Nixon had some good points.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think who else and have been president.
Yeah.
I've only seen two presidential candidates, and that was Barry Goldwater and begins with A. But I can't think of the other one. The one was in Westchester. He spoke there. Bob and I went down uptown, and there he was.
Who was he
Yeah.
running against?
I don't remember now.
Goldwater.
And then there's the one I saw at the train station in Wilmington, Delaware.
Really?
But they're the only two I've ever seen.
Let me see here. So Barry Goldwater. Let me see.
And what year that was.
Right.
And then see who was running in 1952.
Barry Goldwater presidential. Let's see. So Barry Goldwater was in 64, and he was running. Says the Barry Goldwater presidential campaign of 1964 began when United States Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona elected to seek the Republican Party nomination for President of the United States to challenge incumbent Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah.
He was not my favorite.
Well, what do you remember anything in particular about why he wasn't your favorite? Any decisions or, you know?
Just the wild parties we heard about even then.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't like his policies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely not a fan of that, huh?
No.
So you said what was the other year? 52?
Yeah. Who was running
Who was running in
52?
52?
It seems to me it begins with A, and I
Let's see.
just cannot.
Okay, the two were Dwight D. Eisenhower, who defeated the Democrat, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Adlai E. Stevenson. Or Adlai. I don't know.
Adlai. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where the A comes. Adlai Stevenson. Yes. Yeah.
So you saw him at
I
that train
saw him
station
at the
in
in Wilmington, Delaware.
Delaware. Okay. Okay. So, and of course he was Democrat, so
Yes.
why did you see him? Just
I
you were
just
curious.
I just happened to be there. I wasn't there because he was
Because
there.
okay,
I
so
just
you were
happened
just
to be
you happened to be there, and
there.
and that was happening, and so
Yeah.
you went and saw that. So
Yeah.
when you so another question I have on here: when you moved from Pennsylvania to Florida, now, do you remember that whole time moving?
Sad time.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Now, what was the kind of the catalyst or the cause to have y'all move down to Florida?
Well, Bob was asked to resign up there,
Yeah.
and he went to Florida, and an elder paid for his motel stay, and he had Bible study with a friend of the elders, and while he was there, he heard of Chiefland, that they needed a pastor, and he went and they hired him to be pastor.
Yeah.
So we packed up, rented a U-Haul, the biggest one we could get, and put everything we could in there.
Yeah.
And still the garage was pretty full.
Wow.
Ruth and John came in, this was June 24th, or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
when the Hurricane Agnes
Ooh.
came through. And Ruth and John brought the rest of the stuff then in the fall, in September.
Yeah.
And but I was driving our car with Faith. Bobby was riding in the truck with Bob, and Aura was behind me with her boyfriend John Sloan in a Mustang.
Oh goodness.
Followed us all the way to Florida.
Oh wow.
But we were going to go down 95, which means going from Baltimore to Baltimore or something. Anyway, it was all flooded, so we had to go down 301.
So it was flooded because of the hurricane.
Yes.
Wow.
So I remember going through an intersection. You know, the water was up to the running board, and so Faith says, opened the door. She said, "I wonder how deep it is in the water."
That was not a good idea.
So we get to the place. There was a church building facing east, and a Sunday school building that was probably at least 2 or 3 times bigger than the church building, going longwise in the back of the church. And we were to live in the second floor of that building, although our kitchen was downstairs in the very back, in the dining room.
And I know my dad's told me a lot about when y'all would live there, and you know, living in the church, and it sounds a lot different than living in a house.
There's no bathroom upstairs.
Oh, that would not be fun.
And the stairs are way over here. Around these walls facing north were our bedrooms. They were just like, Bobby had 2 small, almost like walk-in closets.
Yeah.
Almost. So he had his stuff in one and slept in the other, or something like that. And then there was our bedroom. We had 2 of them connected together. And then Faith was in the corner, and then Aura. And then as it went around, we had that for our living room.
Wow.
But you had to go through the living room and down a long hall, and then down the steps and down a long hall to get to the bathroom.
Oh goodness. And here I can just sometimes I have to walk downstairs to go to the bathroom, but it's nothing like like that. Whew. Goodness. Okay, so that was from PA to FL.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now here is one. I know your first grandchild was Joshua.
No.
So- Oh,
Hope.
Hope. Sorry, Hope. Whoops. That's right. Hope's a little bit older.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. So, do you remember the moment when you met your first grandchild? Which would have been Hope.
Yeah. Well, we had to go out to Oregon. No, that's right. She was born in October and Josh in November. And
Well,
then
Josh was October 31st, because I know he's in Halloween.
she's August.
Here's what music.
It's pretty awful. Right now, don't do anything to release.
Oh, it's ready, Paul.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good, Paul.
You should show Grandma the check. He's going on the couch, so he might be in the background of your shot.
All right, we're gonna make sure we do a bunch of softball questions this time. No, I'm just kidding. Just.
Yeah, did you wake up? Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't shake the camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I need to drink more water.
Grandma needs to drink more water.
So, as we are going,
I just needed to do that as a test there. So.
If that's what it is. Okay.
All right. Well, well, it's been a week and a day since I last since we were doing our interview, and my battery died, and we just didn't get back to the interview until now. So, and today's date is Friday, June 14th, 2019. And I have a few more questions for Grandma, but we were in the middle of the question of what was it like meeting her first grandchild, which was Hope, and she said that you said you went to Oregon?
Yeah, she was born in Oregon, yeah. But at Christmas time, I mean, she was born in August and Josh in November or October. And then at Christmas, Faith and Doug and Hope came from, that's my phone.
That's an email.
They came from Portland, and Aura and Steve and Josh came from Baltimore. And we all came to Jacksonville. And we
Okay.
spent, Christmas and probably a week together. And my dad was there, see his great-grandchildren and so on. That was a special time, yeah.
Wow. So that was neat. Just
It's the last time we were together
wow.
like that.
We, as in you and.
Bob,
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
he was there.
And so then you got to hold Hope, your first grandchild, for the first time.
Yes.
And the year was what was the year, Jackie?
82.
82. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
very special. But when she was born, it was on a Sunday, and I was playing the piano with the lady that was playing the organ, so I had the door open right next to the piano so that I could hear the telephone in case the baby had come.
This was at church?
This was at church.
So you were waiting for, now if you had gotten a phone call at that time, would you have just stopped playing piano and
I
ran over?
believe I would have. Yes.
But I'm guessing you didn't get the phone call during that time.
No, it was later in the day for both of them.
Now, what church was that you were playing?
Ortega Presbyterian
Okay.
in Jacksonville.
Whew. So from Jacksonville to Oregon, was that did you drive?
Oh, no,
You
no,
flew, okay.
no. Yes, flew, yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow. Even a flight, that would be a long flight.
It is, but you can't make it in one hop. I mean, we
You
had
have
to
to
go,
stop somewhere.
from Jacksonville to Atlanta, from Atlanta, like to Dallas.
Oh,
and
wow.
From Dallas up to Seattle,
Wow.
and then from Seattle to Portland. I mean, there were several airports that we saw.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a good one. We're hearing the parents in the background. Okay, so, all right. Now, did you enjoy being a school teacher?
Yes. 80% of the time. There were times that it was not enjoyable. When the children or child would not cooperate or was belligerent. Or I had one that was on meds, and he would, crawl under desks and over desks and,
Oh, no.
and so on. And they said, well, we want him in a room with other children, so
Oh,
that
no.
was not a fun year.
So I'm guessing those were days you probably lost your voice because you'd be shouting at or telling him to stop crawling under the desks and acting
And
up.
it took away from the other children,
Yeah.
to be able to teach them. Then another year they put an epileptic in the classroom to mainstream. And that's the word they used.
Yeah.
We had a handicapped wing of our school, so that when you go to lunch, you'd see many in wheelchairs or with crutches and so on. And it helped the students to be acquainted with that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people go to the store and they see, and they just look, because they haven't seen anybody like that. But that really helped
Wow.
the students. I know it helped me.
Right.
And this epileptic boy they told me, do not do anything with his tongue. That they do not, just let him be
Yeah,
if he should have a seizure. He never had a seizure
Oh.
while he was in my room.
I'm
Thank
sure
you,
you were glad.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, goodness.
And I had some teachers that were Christians. There was one that was Seventh-day Adventist. I don't know, how she was with the Lord. She just, used the language, but I don't know. But most of them were very friendly and helpful.
Yeah,
I mean, if you needed something, they would help you. And they had a good library for the children to get books and for the teachers to get materials.
wow.
Yes. And a Christian principal, which made it very nice, up until the last 2 years. And that principal was okay. It's just didn't have the relationship that I did with the other one. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, what school was that at?
Oh, that was the last one I taught at. That was the public school, number 82, Love Grove Elementary in Jacksonville, up University Boulevard. We would drive to the other, across the river, I guess, to the south side. And Bobby and I would drop him off at University Christian School, and then I'd just drive on up University Boulevard, and it was on University Boulevard.
Yeah.
That was a nice experience. I'm glad that was the way I ended up my teaching career. 'Cause I quit from there.
So where did you teach before that?
The year before that, I taught at I guess you would call it a school that was connected with a church called Pillar of Fire. And they did not have the books or materials. I wrote what the children should learn on the blackboard, and they would copy it. And it was I never got paid by check. It was always cash.
Oh, interesting.
What little there was.
Oh, wow.
They didn't pay very much. It paid for the gas to go back and forth. But I was between schools because the first school I taught at in Jacksonville was Victory, and Bobby went to the Victory Christian School too, so we could go together. But after 2 years,
Just 1 year.
1
'cause
year?
I was only there for 9th grade.
okay, after 1 year, they decided you had to be a member of their church
To teach.
to teach.
Uh-huh.
So that counted
That
me
was
out.
not gonna happen.
Oh,
That
wow.
was not going to happen.
Well, because they were what denomination?
Independent, I would say.
Independent, okay.
Baptist.
Well, it was definitely Baptist.
Yeah, Baptist, but very independent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. I was. That was an interesting place to teach. But I guess it was. No, it was Victory that I used that where they were to. We had spelling words, and they were to write the words when I would say them. And so one of the words was H-A-I-L, hail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in rural Florida, hail is H-E-L-L.
Oh, no.
So one of the girls wrote down H-E-L-L.
Oh, no.
Oh, I learned a lot.
Different accents for a different region of the United
Yeah.
States.
Yes.
Wow. And then you taught somewhere before that?
Yeah, the year before that was Lake City.
Yeah, taught there 3 years, wasn't it?
I was there, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yes. Faith graduated from there. We moved to Jacksonville the middle of Faith's senior year. But we would, when we were in Chiefland, we would go from Chiefland to
Lake City.
Lake City, thank you. And we rented a trailer out in the country. We had a big yard around, and we stayed there during the week.
Was
We
that
didn't-
for 2 years or 1
I
year?
think it was 2 years.
Because the first year we would ride with the Simpsons, right?
Yes. And she would have her Bible up there, be reading it and driving.
Oh, really?
So the roads were straight and flat.
Yeah.
Still, there were other people on the road.
Distracted driver. Uh-oh.
She was a wonderful
She
lady.
never got pulled over for that, did she?
Nobody around. You don't see anybody from one town to the other.
Oh, wow.
And her son was my age, and he was in my class.
Lee Simpson.
Lee
yeah.
Simpson.
Yeah.
And
Were you guys friends?
yeah, and it would be like an hour, 55 miles one way. So it'd be like an hour drive.
So you'd trade baseball cards?
No, but I was building models and stuff back
Oh.
then, and yeah. And he's the one that they had a lake house and mini bites. And,
Yeah.
Goodness. Wow.
Well, then Faith got a driver's license and she drove. She really got
Lots of
hooked up the
practice.
miles.
yeah, she was 15 probably when she started, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, when we first came down, wasn't the mileage or the miles an hour 50? And we just seemed like we creeped along. And then they changed it, or else it was 55 and they changed it and it seemed like we just creeped along. Be 50. You know, a straight thing. You just, seems like it takes forever.
Yeah.
But we had fun out in the yard of this place that we rented, this trailer. Bobby didn't have a bedroom. He slept in the living room. Wasn't it the living room? On the floor?
I guess. I'd forgotten about that.
I would buy the groceries in Chiefland, and then we'd transport them on Sunday night after church. We'd go up, and that would be our food for the week.
Well,
Wow.
And did you say what else we would bring with us every week?
Oh, yes. Aura wanted a dog. So she was only there, lived in Chiefland 1 year, her senior year of high school. And she just begged for a dog. Well, we got one, a terrier, like a
Part
fox.
Heinz and part Spitz is what I remember.
Part Heinz and part Spitz, called John Boy.
Oh, yeah.
So when she went to Philadelphia College of the Bible, who took care of the dog? So we had to put John Boy in the car with us to take him, because otherwise he wouldn't have been taken care of. And then we'd bring him back and Friday night after school. And that's what we did for at least 1 year. I was thinking it was 2,
It
but
might have been 2. It might have been 7th and 8th grade.
Well, how many years did you have the dog?
until Faith got married.
Yeah, we had the dog in Jacksonville.
Yeah, when she was getting married, he had turned on either Bobby or me, I forget which, and we said, that's it. We took him right to the vet, and we paid for them to have him put down. I mean, he
Wow.
just was not a nice
not.
dog.
He was not really affectionate. I mean,
No.
he was outside all the time.
Yeah.
We weren't
You
really
never
attached
told-
to him.
You never told me he was put down.
Well, I didn't remember, but
Yeah.
you know,
It was worth it to me and not have him in the yard.
Wow, he turned on you?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he was not a nice dog.
Mm.
But
Rupert.
we didn't do it though until we were all getting ready for Faith and Doug's wedding. Yeah,
I didn't remember that. Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, all you did was like dig holes in the backyard and, you know, it just wasn't,
He wasn't nice to be around.
Oh no.
you know.
Lammy.
Rupert?
To be right there.
Okay, so another question was we had talked a little bit about. Well, actually, before I get to that, so were there any places you taught before that?
I taught in the Westchester. Our church started a school, and I would teach wherever a teacher needed help. And like some of the children needed help in writing,
Mm-hmm.
some needed help in reading, some in math, you know, just whatever was needed. I did not have a classroom of my own
Gotcha,
that year.
gotcha.
Was that called Faith Academy or Faith something?
I think Faith Academy is it.
And how many kids were in it? Like 30 or 50 or
No, I'd say more like 20,
20?
if that many. And I know Don Riesinger said, are you going to send your children there? That was not something that Bob and I either one wanted.
Who did he ask, Dad?
I know
you?
he asked, I knew that he asked that question. I don't remember who he asked it from, of.
Obviously, the answer was no.
Well, then why should any of them people, that was the thinking.
Mhm.
But people did still send it, but it didn't last. The school didn't last long.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Bob picked out a verse. I think it's Psalm 38:11. Come to me, my children, I will teach you my word, or something like that. That's what he used. And every time I come across that verse, I think of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite subject that you to teach that you taught?
Favorite subject? I guess math.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
Did you know that?
I really liked what we could do after classes were over, and we had to wait for the voice to come over the PA system, dismissing children for like bus 422,
Mm-hmm.
and then those children would go. But while they were all in the room, why have them just sit at desk? They would play tic-tac-toe on the board.
Oh,
They
wow.
would learn to jump rope. I mean, there were different things that we would do. I enjoyed that part too.
Oh, that's fun.
The part, I guess, I liked, two parts that I liked the least was teaching reading, because you have three or four different groups at four different levels.
Yeah.
And then the other is to keep what they called IMS cards, Instructional Management System, for each child.
Ooh.
For math and reading, there would be this different skills. A skill named, put down the date you started to teach it and the date they got it, and were able to say what it was. And that took so much of our time. I mean,
Wow.
it, and I don't know what purpose it did, what it helped. I don't know. It just seemed like it was just busy work. So,
Yeah. Okay. Anything before that, as far as teaching before? Okay.
Was teaching your kids piano.
oh, okay.
Oh wait, let me check my tape thing here. Let me just check that and make sure that. Okay. Yes, we are
Okay.
back on.
You asked if there was any teaching before that. We were married in 1950, and I spent that year in the King's College in Delaware and graduated that June. Well, then the next school year, I was hired to teach at the Wilmington Christian School.
Okay.
But I had two grades, 4th and 5th grade, that I taught for 2 years, and then we moved to Westchester.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that Wilmington was the first place.
yeah.
Okay.
How did you guys find out about Delaware County Christian School? Did you know? Just because some people in the church were going there?
Probably. Or from other Christian families that we knew, or people, I don't remember that. I don't remember that, but I really liked the way it was run by the
Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
not somebody hierarchy up here with all the money and everything. So, yeah.
I know one of the questions that my mom thought would be neat to ask you about was some of your ancestors coming to America.
Well,
Well, yeah, I
Even
know
if
you
you
remember
only
a
know
little bit.
very little, just anything
Yeah.
that you know or you heard.
do you not have the Critchlow book?
I think I do somewhere.
Okay, in the front of that, there is some history of that. I know I have 2 cousins, no, maybe 3 cousins. All 3 looked into it. And the one corresponded quite a bit with a relative over there. His last name was Critchlow.
Okay.
Um,
In England?
In England?
In England,
Oh,
yes.
neat.
Now, your parents were both born in the United States, right?
Yes,
Were both of you, or all four of your grandparents born in the US?
as far as I know, yes.
Okay, so it's pretty far back that,
Yes, it's 3 or 4 generations.
Okay.
On both sides of your family?
I don't know about the Hughes part. That was never investigated that I know of.
maybe for the best, who knows?
True.
Oh, really? How come? Oh.
But my mother was one of, let's see, there was she, and she had 4 sisters and a brother. The brother's name was Elmer. He died maybe like at 9 or 10, I believe.
Wow.
And then she had a sister Lucy, a sister Florence, and then Bertha and Bessie. And when they were about, I think around 20 or 21, they died of the flu or
Oh,
something
no.
like that.
And
And
this
that
would have been
years and
born
years
in
ago.
like late 1800s? Because Grandpa was born in 1893.
Well, they were in their 20s, so it would be in the 1900s.
Okay.
Yeah.
When they died, you said?
And when they were born.
When they were born.
They all
Okay.
live in Pennsylvania?
Yes, yes. Yeah, Dad and Mother never lived any other place in Pennsylvania. And within maybe a 40-mile radius.
Mm,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess he was as far as Slippery Rock, right?
Yeah, they met in Slippery Rock Normal School. They both were school teachers, so, yeah.
It's kind of interesting when you think about a few generations back, them coming over a whole ocean to be here, and then so many generations staying in relatively the same spot. It's so interesting.
So what caused Grandpa to change from a school teacher to a farmer?
I really don't know.
Hmm.
I never asked him. I never even was curious about that for some reason or other.
But you don't have any memories of when he was a teacher, though, right?
No, he I think both of them was taught maybe 2 years,
Mm.
but it was a 1-room school with all 8 grades.
Oh, wow.
And that's what they taught them in Slippery Rock, how to do that. Because you have to have a system, and you learn that system in the, what they called normal schools, now called university.
Mm.
I think university sounds a little better than normal.
Right.
Now, do you know any of the occupations of your grandparents?
My grandfather Hughes, my mother's father, worked for someone, for a farmer, and he and his wife and children had like a little cottage on the farm. As far as I can remember, that's what my mother said. And so when he passed on, she was destitute. I mean, she had no place to live, no money coming in. So she went part of the time with Aunt Lucy, her daughter Lucy, but most of the time it was with us on the farm.
Oh, wow. And then your other grandparents?
Well, he was again a farmer.
Wow, so such a
But
farming.
There was a time, I still don't understand exactly all that transpired about it, but there was a time when I believe it was Grandpa Critchlow got like a TB or something in his lungs that he needed the wide open spaces and dry climate. So he went to Wyoming for 2 years
Mm.
and worked with cattle or herded cattle or
Wow.
something on the ranch. And then he came back and was okay, apparently.
Wow.
Interesting, all the farming in
Oh,
the
no.
family.
Well, that kind of leads us to the question of the spring house. So, of course, they didn't have a refrigerator on the farm because they didn't have electricity on the farm growing up. So, but they did have, for keeping things cool, they had something called a spring house. Can you explain what a spring house is for those in the future that are watching this?
Okay. It was, you go out the back door and you probably take maybe 30 steps and you're where the spring house is, but it's halfway underground. So here you are on ground level and you have to go down, 4 or 5 steps to the bottom, to the floor of the spring house. And on the left we had a table. There was a window, and those are the only 2 windows there. The rest of it is all closed in. But straight in, you have a deep part. I mean, it's probably that deep. And
In water?
In water.
Okay.
And that's where the spring would come in. And that's where we would get our drinking water, for washing clothes, for cooking, whatever water you use. It comes from that spring. And then the spring, that part was about that wide, or about that square. And then over here it was, the water was maybe that deep, and it had a cement floor, a real smooth cement floor, so you could put like bottles of milk, or put your Jello, or whatever you wanted to cool, you would put there. So we would do our butter there, make our butter, turn that thing 500 times, and you'd see the clots of butter.
Oh, wow.
And then you have to get it out, and you work it to get the buttermilk out, and just have butter.
What about bathrooms? Did you have an outhouse?
I was going to ask about bathroom, but I'm glad you did because I was like, wow.
We didn't have bathrooms until we had electricity, so yes, we had an outhouse.
So you mean at night, if you ever had to go, you had to go to an outhouse?
Not really. They have like
Chamber pots.
chamber pots. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know any of this stuff. Wow.
Yeah. Then in the morning, you have the joy of taking it out to the outhouse.
What kind of toilet paper did they have back?
The Sears catalog.
Oh, so you would order from the catalog.
No, really. No, the toilet paper was the Sears catalog
Yes, the pages.
You really would use the pages.
That's
Oh
right.
Oh, wow.
with all the ink on it.
That's right. Whatever was on it.
Okay.
I mean, we never
And
heard
I
of
want
toilet
to try
paper.
that to save some money.
Well, we
They don't
just
have
never,
Sears catalogs
never
anymore.
heard of toilet paper.
We have other magazines around.
Maybe we could find some old vintage Sears catalogs, Oh, goodness.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're making me think about something else.
But even in the dead of winter, guys would have to troop out there in the snow. Wow.
That's right. I know, since my 3 sisters were quite a bit older than I was, they would tell me about times that we ate, all 6 of us, or all the ones, 5 of them, would be sitting around the table all 3 meals, for breakfast and dinner, which is at noon, and supper, which we call dinner now, but then there would be the dishes to wash. So we always had the one pan that would be for the hot water and the soap to wash them. Then we'd have the rinse pan, and then somebody would have to dry. Well, Eleanor and Bernice got the idea of, well, that's about the time for doing dishes they needed to use the outhouse. And they would stay out there, and they would stay out there, and then come back. Helen said, yeah, I got them all finished, all clean. And she thought she was doing a great thing.
Now, did somebody make your clothes?
My mother made all my clothes, even
Wow.
my panties.
So what did she make them out of?
Sometimes feed sacks.
Feed sacks.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
sometimes. We'd get material in town at Penny's, and she would make the panties the same color as the dress.
Wow, now what about coats and hats?
Okay, my mother liked to go to a place in Butler, which was a bigger town than Grove City,
Interesting.
about 20 miles south of us. And it was, Jaffe's was their name. And they really had nice stuff, and she would get nice coats for us, to wear to church. and then, for going outside, go sled riding, get to the chicken house to water them. And so,
Now, did anybody wear glasses when you were all little? And where did you go to get glasses?
go to the Grove City, they had
Mm.
doctors there. My mother, ever since I can remember, could not seem to, she had trouble with the one eye. Apparently a cataract came very early and she couldn't see out of it right. And so she always had a patch over her left eye. She did the cooking, she did the sewing, she took care of all the eggs, picking them twice a day, or the gathering, they say gathering the eggs twice a day, morning and evening, and then bringing them in, washing them, weighing them, and putting them in the crates, as well as all her other work. So you talk about women's rights. My mother was as responsible for the farm making money as Dad was.
Oh, wow.
In fact, maybe more. It just was something that we lived with. Never thought it should be any different.
But I forgot, what were their personalities like, your parents? Like, I mean, like your father had a good sense of humor.
Yeah, he liked to tease my cousins, the girl cousins, and he used to call them all Myrtle. What? And Ora said she learned later that's because he couldn't remember their names, so he called them all the same.
Oh, that's so funny.
Would he
Oh,
call
that's
you
funny.
Gidget or something like that?
Pardon?
Like Gidget or something? Or Skeeter?
Bridget.
Bridget.
Maybe it was Bridget then.
Okay.
Skeeter.
Yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't because he couldn't remember your name.
He didn't call me Bridget, no. No, we had his brother, Warren, who was unmarried at the time, work he would come and stay and work for Dad. And he's the one that started calling me Skeeter. And he called me Skeeter until the last time I saw him.
Oh, wow.
And that's
He seemed to have a good sense of humor.
yes.
Now, what personality was your mom?
Pretty much easygoing, someone in need, oh, can I help, and just, I don't know, a hard worker, both of them. Oh, when she would get the meal ready, and Dad could be anywhere on the farm, well, not anywhere, she had some idea of what section he was in, and she would go to the door and say, yoo-hoo, and he would answer, yip, yip, if he heard, then she knew that he would be coming in.
Well, I just think of Grandpa as being very even-tempered.
Yeah, both of them were. I mean, I never saw my mother get angry or mad or particularly upset. When she was upset, apparently she didn't show it that much. I do remember. Oh, yeah,
Is it
one
still
night.
going?
Yeah.
One night when I was dating Montgomery, and he was in the service and was home on furlough, and we had come back, and while we were on the date, he kept wanting to know what my first name was, and I just was not going to tell him.
And you were going by Marjorie at that.
Yes.
Wait, who was this? What?
Just somebody that she dated.
Yeah.
So you were 18? 17?
Yeah, probably, 17 or 18 while we were on the farm. It wasn't until after I graduated that we moved. But he kept asking me, won't you tell me? And that upset her because with their bedroom there and the windows being open,
Mhm.
she heard him wanting to know something, wanting something. She said to me next morning, "What was Mont wanting?" And I said, "He just wanted to know my first name." She was so relieved. She just could not figure out. Now that's about the only time I know of that she seemed sort of upset. But then with this Mont, my mother, had said I couldn't date until I was 16. Okay, so here I am 15, and I stayed in for a basketball game. Well, Mont was there, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the late movies. Because I always stayed with Bernice and Delmer overnight.
Because they were in town.
Yeah, because I had no way to get home. So I went to the movies with him, late movies, it didn't get out until midnight or something like that.
Goodness.
And then he brought me to Bernice's, and that was it, So I think I was the one. I don't think Bernice said anything.
Some little birdie squawk.
Yeah, I think it was on my conscience, and I mentioned it, but she never said a word about it,
You were grounded for 3 months, but you never said a word.
I was grounded, period. There was no way she could ground me anymore.
Is it going?
I'm just going to stop it and start it again.
Ask again. I was just going to ask what Bob's father did.
Okay.
Okay.
Boy, do you
Is it
remember-
going?
Yeah.
So what did Bob's father do?
He worked on this for the Susquehanna Railroad. That was out of Patterson, I believe.
Did he work like in an office? Was he on
Yes.
training?
Whenever there was an accident, he had to go and inspect it and make a report back to the company. So he was called out at night sometimes. So yeah.
No, you don't know anything about Bob's grandparents as far as.
Well, his father worked for the Susquehanna Railroad too.
That was Robert Nelson.
Robert Nelson.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
In
Well,
Patterson, New Jersey.
Robert Nelson's wife was Annabelle Clay Duvall.
That's right.
anything anyone else can think of?
Let me just see.
And it was through the Annabelle Clay, that's where the Clay connection was,
Yes.
right? And somehow there's supposedly a connection with Henry Clay,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Somewhere.
Somewhere along the line. Maybe if you do a genealogy,
Mm.
but you have to have something to send, don't you?
I don't know.
A DNA?
Spit sample.
Yes. Some kind of a sample.
Mhm.
So, what does a typical day look for you nowadays?
Oh, yes. A typical day. Okay. Okay, well, I get up. Sometimes I hear the patter of big feet upstairs. I think, oh, must be time to get up.
Well, what time is that usually that you get up?
I would say around 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah. That to me is my usual time.
And will you watch the sunrise or?
No, I don't watch it rising. I do like to watch how, as the season progresses, the sunlight comes more and more over here and over here and over here. In the wintertime, it's way over there, So I like to watch that. And see the kitty cats looking in my window. And, I get up and then I eat breakfast in my pajamas. And,
Scandalous.
yes, I have my devotions and so on. And then I have a shower and get dressed. And then try to do some cleaning, have at least one thing that I do.
Okay.
And then maybe look around and see, is there something I can do that would be of help for when I'm gone, so that y'all don't have all of that. I think of aura, after I'm gone, trying to figure out what to do with all the stuff I have. It's a small apartment, but there's a lot of compartments full, shelves full. But I like to read. I have a friend who has over 1,000 books that she lets me borrow all the time. And then,
Is that Barb?
yes, Barb. She finally told herself no more books the other week. She's not going to buy any more books. I mean, because she's still buying them. She has over 1,000. Yes. Then probably I'll contact Harold or Aura, see if they need anything in
Call them on the
town.
phone.
Yeah. And then I'll go into town, do whatever, and enjoy the trip, seeing all the fields, the creeks, the houses and people. I mean, I just enjoy,
And animals.
and animals, cows especially, I see. And then have lunch around, starting about 11:45, I think about. I'm trying to get so that I think at breakfast, what am I going to have for lunch? So if it's something out of the freezer, then I can have it out and thawed. I don't always accomplish that. And then I'll have lunch and listen to Rush for maybe a few
Rush
minutes.
Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh. And then, I like the movie, series. It's not a movie, but it's a series, The Heat of the Night. I don't know whether it's police work years ago in Sparta, Mississippi. And it just reminds me of back home on the farm, you know, the people that they have. So I watch that every once in a while. And then, try and do walking, depending on the weather, outside if I can. I find that my rollator, that's like a walker with wheels and a seat. I go over the grass, over the lawn, a lot better than the lane. The lane is so pebbly.
Right.
It just jars my arms going, and it's hard to push, but it's easy to push over the grass. So I do that walking, and then sometimes Aura has a pound of bacon for me to fry up, so I do that. And you know, there's just no 2 days are alike.
That's
really.
good. That's good to have that variety.
Yes, very thankful. And maybe you'll see what the birds did to my car, clean that. And, and then in the supper, about the evening meal, whatever you call it, around 5. And then watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and then maybe Hallmark for a few minutes, and then I go in and get ready for bed. Then I come back out and I can read some more, because I found that if I wait until I'm ready to go to bed to get ready for bed, it wakes me up. It sounds crazy, but it works better for me anyway. If I get ready for bed shortly after 8 and then go to bed shortly after 9.
Gotcha. Now, do you usually go upstairs to eat supper?
No.
Okay, so you usually do that in your apartment then?
Yes, the only time I go upstairs usually is to eat is Sunday at noon.
Okay.
And sometimes that doesn't work out either. And then I stop at Kentucky Fried Chicken and get my leg and thigh, original recipe, the biscuit, mashed potatoes and gravy, and
Oh, wow.
Oh,
coleslaw.
that sounds
Really
tasty.
good.
What a feast.
Now I'm actually
And I'm a senior citizen, so I get 10% off.
I bet you
Oh.
have to show ID though, don't you?
They can look out the window and see. Yeah.
Yeah,
'cause
okay.
So I'm in bed now, so does that answer the question?
Full day.
Now,
Well,
once you're in bed, do you get up and do some farming, or no? I'm just kidding.
Certainly, every night.
Pick the blueberries.
Yeah.
That's neat. Okay, so here's an interesting one. If you could course, I don't have any children yet, and Jackie doesn't have any children yet. But if you could speak to hello children whenever you exist, whenever that is, if you could
Speak to
just
her
speak to
great-grandchildren.
those great grandchildren,
Those particular ones.
because they will see this video at some point whenever they come to this earth. So if you were to say something to them, or just say something, and then even just
Okay.
pray a blessing over them. That'd be neat.
Yeah. Welcome to the family. Yes, and just very thankful for your parents, and that you will be good, obedient children, and that you will come to know Jesus and love him and want to serve him and to just, do all that he tells you to do, but especially to praise him and to thank him and have the joy of the Lord be your strength. Yes.
And be very kind to your grandparents.
I was going to say that. I'll tell you what I was going to
Okay.
say.
Yes, you can do that too.
Especially to your grandparents.
Doesn't your great grandma have a great sense of humor?
And your grandparents.
Hi.
Hi, grandchild.
I don't think they can see. I don't think they can see me either, right?
And know
They
you
might be able to.
be handsome if you're a boy and beautiful if you're a girl. Yeah.
This is your grandfather.
You can't see me over there, right?
No, I think you can see. Yeah. That's your grandma.
You can
That's
call
your
her Gram.
uncles right there. Your
There's
uncles.
your grand.
Lanny.
There's your uncles.
Lanny and Fluffy, which we call
Those are my two
Rupert,
brothers.
Rupert and Rufus,
Those are your
or
furry
Mr.
uncles.
Gizzard.
Furry uncles.
I guess, yeah. I mean, and then of course, same thing to Luke and Rebecca's children, who are also
Yes.
going to be your great grandchildren.
Yes.
And then what
Sophia
if there's
and
more?
Olivia and Tessa.
Sophia, Olivia, and Tessa, and
And
if
then
there's
when
any
Hannah-
more, and then when Hannah and Ty have any children too.
Yes.
So
Josh and Mandy.
and Josh and Mandy. Yeah. So.
Hey.
Yeah, all of them. So, yes. So with all of them in mind, do you want to pray a blessing over all of them?
Oh, okay,
Would
sure.
that be neat?
Yes, that the Lord would bless you with hearts that are soft toward God and mankind. Lord, that you would just use their minds in a way that will glorify you, and that they will find joy in the things that bring joy to you, and that they will love your word, Lord, that they will just find the life that you have there, the living word that just works in our hearts to bring fruit that will glorify God. Just bless them, Lord, that they will be hardworking and that they will be loving to each other and that they will be ones who love to help others and want to tell others about Jesus. And there's something blinking in there.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. But that the Lord will use you, and that you will find great joy in family get-togethers, and that you will just learn to find ways to serve one another and to help one another and to get together and have fun. And that it'll be a joy wherever you are, and that you will treat your brother and your sister and your parents with respect and will be willing to go out of your way to see that they're taken care of, whatever that way may be. We never know what the future holds, but we know that you can count on God to give you the strength for what He has in mind for you to do. And Lord, we're just so thankful for each one of you each one could be a dozen. That's great. And we love each one of you. And we look forward to seeing you in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
I was definitely crying on that one. I don't know about you. Yeah.
Can I have
Grandma too. Or
one other
great grandma.
question? I have
Yeah.
just one other question. Mom, you really study the word. It's like you show yourself approved. I mean, how long have you been doing that? I mean, did you do that in your 20s? Did you do that in your teens where you were in the word all the time, the way you were? I mean,
You did it in your 30s, I know, because
because you sit there writing scripture out and studying, and were you always like that?
No. No. When I was first saved and started college, I had to ride with someone real early in the morning from Harrisville to Grove City. So I stayed, it was probably maybe an hour before classes started. And I would be down in the women's lounge. And I can remember I memorized most of the book of Romans
Wow.
during that time.
Wow. Good.
But that, I don't remember it now, but that's when, the word, but then it got to be that I would wait to see what Bob said about it. It was the night before I got the divorce is when I was set free from that. I couldn't stay in bed anymore. It's just like the whole heavenly world opened up to me. And I got the Bible out and I just couldn't stop reading. It
Wow.
jumped out at me. But there's been ebb and flow in between. But I'd say in the last few years, it's just been, as he said, it's a living word. Every time I read it, something jumps out at me that I hadn't seen before and makes sense. That I hadn't even known that there was such a thing as that information that just all dovetails together. It's just, I can't get enough. Well, I really love to do it, and
Yeah.
I love that Bible that you all got me. That, before it was hard to, my eyes would get tired, and but it's just the
The
older
Bible says you
Oh,
see
yeah,
it.
if I say it.
the older I get, the more the word means to me. I mean,
Wow. No, it's a big inspiration.
Billy Graham, like,
I mean,
Yeah, from the
it's
Billy
just-
Graham Library.
yeah.
But
Here
isn't
it is.
It's just a big inspiration.
yeah.
Matches her pants and her glass.
Ah, the
I'm
color.
coordinated.
So coordinated, yes.
Yeah, we
We
planned
planned
that.
that.
And Paul
Planned it all.
too. Paul
Yeah.
also.
Oh,
Here we
yeah.
are.
yeah,
And my shoes. Well, no.
Jackie's shoes.
and my nothing.
Where's mommy sock?
One sock.
One sock.
Yeah, my socks are not matching.
And the
I just wanted to also just say that I really enjoy spending time with you, Grandma, and
Yeah, me too.
Me
Well, that
too.
means-
That's,
Yeah.
means
yeah.
a lot to me. And
Yeah.
not to say anything wrong about it, but I don't understand why. I mean, I really don't.
yeah,
Well, anyway, I am so thankful that you and Jackie and Janie and Bobby want to spend time with me. That
Oh, we
Of
love
course.
We
Yeah,
love
love
you.
Yeah.
I have friends that their children are in the same town and they never see them. They don't want to see them.
yeah.
And I think, oh, I am so blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to come here and you treat me like a queen.
Queen City.
That's right.
Yeah, but you really mean the world to me, Grandma.
Yeah, that's all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Lord. that you're doing, and I thank you. I really do.
Yeah. Maybe because I can't totally come up with all the words, I'll reread what I wrote to you.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, this was for your 90th birthday. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Okay.
I'm definitely gonna need Ratatouille after this.
Okay, here we go. All right. So I wrote this for Grandma's 90th birthday, which was this year on April 20th of 2019. So this was well thought out. I tried to really sit down and write this. So,
It was beautiful.
dear Grandma, this world is a better place because you're in it, and I am a better man because you are a part of my life. I am so thankful for the godly example that you are for your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I love your sweet hugs, and I love how freely you give them. Thank you for being there for me as I was growing up, and for putting up with my craziness. I love that we can laugh together. I also love that we can sing together. I particularly enjoy singing Edelweiss with you. I always enjoy talking with you because we have the best conversations. And I always know you will have words of wisdom for me. I enjoy spending time with you, and I always know it will be time well spent. I'm so thankful for all the times we have visited your church, and I could sit next to you with my arm around you. I love thinking back to the sweet memory of a couple of years ago when Jackie and I took the day off from work to spend it with you. It was so fun eating donuts with you, seeing the aviation museum, watching planes take off, and eating together at Landmark Diner. I'm also very thankful for all of the times that you visited the Billy Graham Library with us. A couple of my favorite memories there were riding in the horse-drawn carriage at Christmas time and spending a moment of silence at Billy and Ruth Graham's gravesite. These beautiful memories I've had the honor to share with you are worth far more than all the riches of the world. I want you to know that it will forever and always be my honor to offer you my arm to hold on to when we are walking together. It brings me so much joy to know that we will spend eternity in heaven together. And since heaven is not limited by the constraints of time, we will both be the same age. What a fascinating thought. You mean the world to me, and I love you so much, Grandma. Love, Paul.
That was great. Yeah. You know, you mentioned putting your arm around me in church, and I've heard from my fellow widows or lady widows. Yeah, that is really nice. You know, to see
I was wanting to do just two more things. I want to get my guitar and sing Edelweiss
I
with
was
you.
gonna ask that.
Okay.
And I'd love for you to sing with me. And then I'd love for all of us to just give Grandma a group hug too. So
Okay.
let me just shut the camera off so we don't, taking up all of the space. Okay. Let me just check the mic.
Hey, Vaughn.
Okay.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, Von Trapp family, are we gonna slowly walk in?
So long, farewell, I'll be your sinking night.
Okay. This is Edelweiss. All right. Here we go. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright, you look happy to meet me, blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever.
Go to Blossom of Snow and we'll walk in. Go.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. All right, group hug. Let me put my guitar down.
Okay. Here's this. Okay.
All right, I might have to pull this up here.
Fluffy's in on it too.
Oh, oh.
Oh, that was scary. That was scary.
All right, there we go. All right, the battery's about to die.
Okay.
You want to?
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Hey. That's neat.
We love you, Grandma.
I love you.
Love you.
Whoa.
Fluffy didn't say it yet.
All right.
Wow, he's not screeching.
Bye, everyone. Wave for the camera. So long, farewell.
So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Something like that.
Maybe. The king.